Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo woo.
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. Ty Hildebrand here, Dan Rubenstein over there. solidverbal@gmail.com, as always, is the email address. Find us at solidverbal.com. You can also go on out to itunes.com/solidverbal and subscribe and rate and review our show. You can also now rate and review our show on Facebook at facebook.com/solidverbal. We do have a Twitter account. We do have an Instagram account. And most importantly now, I guess not most importantly, Dan, but we've also got a Snapchat account, which I posted to this weekend.
And what do we commit to putting on the Snapchat, Ty? Once again,
Tasteful nudes.
If nothing else, tasteful nudes. Absolutely correct. It's about being coy digitally, Ty, and I think you know that as well as I do. Hey, Ty.
Yeah.
Welcome to Preview Part 105.
Woohoo! Yeah. Are you fired up for this? I'm a little fired up.
I am, given the teams that we have on here, and I don't know if you want to surprise everybody as we go along, but I guess people will know when we start promoting it. It's a really good array of teams to discuss in breaking down different conferences, because, of course, as we discuss teams, not only are we discussing those teams, we're talking about schedule, we're talking about what they did last year. So it's not limited to just those teams as we review things. Another note, Ty, we don't, at least I will not. I don't, far be it for me to assign you to a specific task. A team plays 12 games in a season. It's great, for instance, that Wisconsin, who we will talk about, won a game in the bowl season. They did not go 10-3. They went 9-3 and then 1-0 in the bowl season. And that's great. That's wonderful for them. Everybody plays 12 season games. That's the even playing field. Those are the records I'm going to go with, and I believe you are as well.
I have denoted on my sheet here that our first team, NC State,
yes,
I have 7-5.
Good.
And then space and in capital letters RS, as in regular season.
The other disclaimer, there's a couple more disclaimers. One is we're using the projected S&P Plus, I believe. It's either the S&P Plus. It's the projected Football Outsiders and Football Study Hall rankings. They did a top 128. We are doing 5 episodes of 8 teams each, so we're doing a top 40. And also, it's for no real reason. There's no like cherry picking reason to like find certain bad things and good things about certain teams. For what I did when I was looking at how a team did last season, I looked at how they did against FBS winning teams. Okay. So that's generally around 6 or 8 teams, because while it's great that you can beat up on Purdue or an FCS team or Indiana's defense or Texas Tech's defense or whatever, the bottom of your division, I'd rather judge a team by what they did against a team that is at least decent. So I don't know if that will adjust how each of us evaluates teams, but that was my metric that I went by. And if you don't like that, we have your download.
I can tell you're excited. You're shot out of a cannon here.
I'm ready to go, Ty. I'm also using the microphone that I used when we first started.
I was going to say, you sound a little bit like you're on Mars tonight. Where are you at?
I'm okay with that. I'm in LA. We're going to get into this.
Oh, right. You're in LA. Okay, cool.
I'm in LA, and so I brought my normal microphone, but it's been acting like garbage lately, and I'm in the market for a new one. Okay. So this is the old one that at one point, it's the Blue Snowball. It's a very basic microphone, and I apologize if I sound different. It is normally white, and since it is now like 7 or 8 years old, it is like a deep beige. Yeah, like it's been baking in the sun.
Nice.
So, whatever.
All right. Well, we're going to do this on the cheap here this evening then.
Absolutely.
We do have some music. Yeah, that's a little America's Top 40, Dan. Remember good old Casey Kasem?
Of course.
This is America's Top 40, but in a much, much different capacity. Cue the drum roll. Team number 40 is the NC State Wolfpack, Dan.
Yes.
7-5 last year regular season, 7-6 if you count the bowl loss to Mississippi State. Let me start off with NC State.
Yeah.
Remember how we talked a few weeks back about those teams that I love no matter what? Remember that conversation? It was very heartfelt.
Of course. You always go back, no matter what they do to you.
I did not mention NC State, but I feel like if we went on a date to the melting pot, I could get there.
Wow, really?
I'm always kind of high on NC State, higher than I should be.
You saw like Mike Glennon throw 6 straight really good passes, and you're like, all right, I'm in on NC State for the long haul.
I mean, the rub here is really that NC State under Dave Doran had that one half against Florida State a couple years ago where it looked like maybe they could challenge. I was at a wedding. I remember it vividly.
Yes.
And then, of course, they got blown out in the second half, and it didn't quite amount to anything. So it really all stems from that. But I'm looking at it this year, and I'm thinking, okay, there are 2 angles you can play here, and tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
If you fashion yourself an optimistic gambling type,
yeah,
NC State could be for you because it feels like they've got some ingredients in place. They've got some recent improvement, not enough, but some recent improvement.
Mm-hmm.
They've got experience on the defensive side, need to get better rushing the passer and all that, but there's talent there. They've got talent on offense with Matt Days, with Jalen Samuels.
Mm-hmm.
It could all work,
yeah.
right? It could all work if you squint really hard and pinch your nose. It could work. Best case scenario, this is an 8-4 team. Absolute best case scenario. And that's not a glass ceiling either. That's a ceiling made of cinder block. That's as high as you're going to get if you're NC State this year. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, reinforced steel. And yeah, you're right. There are certain things with the new offensive coordinator coming over from Boise State who brought, I believe, a grad transfer quarterback, Ryan Finley, who will at least compete to start at quarterback. But there was nothing great that NC State did last year, aside from, playing Florida State tough a couple of years ago, and then last year really taking it to Clemson. They ran all over Clemson, which is, you like that flash. You like that they showed the flash of something. And I'm not super duper high on really any part of this coaching staff. Their defensive coordinator was good a long time ago for UCF, Dave Huxtable, but this is an aggressively average team that is going to need to have an offensive identity. Yeah, it's true. Like they're just like, there's some decent talent up front, but then they give up big plays. And there's just nothing, everything that NC State gives you, something else on NC State takes away. And so for that reason, they have Notre Dame at home. They go to Clemson. They go to what could be a very dangerous Louisville team. They have Florida State at home. They have Miami. They have North Carolina on the road. So not a great ACC schedule. They don't really miss anybody. So they're going to need, I have a list in front of me, and I didn't put this in our show notes, our very detailed show notes. Their over-under is 6 games, 6 wins.
Ooh,
okay?
That's a good over-under. That
feels right. So I don't know if you have their schedule, their complete schedule in front of you. I do.
Okay.
I want to, for each of these teams, which game is the must-win game on their schedule in order to get to 7 games, basically.
All right.
So I listed those games. So it's Bill and Mary, East Carolina, Old Dominion, Wake Forest, Notre Dame, Clemson, Louisville, BC, Florida State, Syracuse, Miami, North Carolina. I feel like they have to win at Syracuse to win 7 games.
They got to win at Syracuse. They might have to beat Miami because we listed 6 games there. And truthfully, ND, Clemson, Louisville, Florida State, Miami, UNC, those are all very losable games.
I think it's North Carolina or Miami.
Yeah. Yeah. To get to 7, it's got to be one of those two. I was going to say the other angle is that this could be a 5-win team.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's way more realistic than 8 wins because they've got experience and they've got some talent, which we talked about, but the line is young. They've got the new coordinator. They've got the new quarterback. Yeah. And I think above all, they really do have a track record of underperforming against other FBS competition. And that does not bode well when you're reading off half the schedule and you've got teams like Notre Dame, Clemson, Louisville, Florida State, Miami, UNC. I want to feel better about NC State than I do.
Right.
But I can't envision anything more in a realistic world than 5 or 6 wins.
Are they the ACC's ultimate shoot team? I think it's either Syracuse or NC State. I really don't have a concept for Syracuse right now because Dino Babers is new and there's so much new about Syracuse. But NC State, because of the way they will just randomly jump on a top 12 team in the second quarter, in the middle of the third quarter, they feel like a team where you see them on the bottom line, like when you're watching ESPN or Fox Sports, whatever, and you see the score and it's 31-24 NC State against Clemson in 4 minutes left in the third quarter. I feel like, oh shoot, NC State. Oh shoot, let's see. And I'm being kind with my language, but yes, that's what they feel like right now at their peak.
And there's always like a weird 2-point conversion. It's like a weird score involved with them too, like 25. Actually, I think the last time we were allowed to use the college football C word, which we stopped using on this show.
Yeah.
It was NC State and Clemson.
Yeah.
I believe so. That might be the last one. So NC State has a little bit of a history of being that shoot team.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's this year. It's going to be tough sledding. There has been steady improvement over the last couple seasons, but they just need to get better against the better teams. That's really what it comes down to. And there are a lot of moving parts this season, which is why I'm skeptical.
They need to go. So if we're talking about, quote, the better teams, Clemson, Louisville, Notre Dame, Miami, North Carolina, and Florida State. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They need to go. If they go 2 and 4, they're in a great place.
Yeah.
If they go 1 and 5, they could be in a pretty good place. But 2 and 4 is a good season. It's so weird to say against those 6 teams.
Absolutely. All right. So neither one of us feeling too hot for NC State, even though I want to. Believe me, I want to, but I can't do it.
Is that a potential trap spot for Notre Dame, by the way?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
They go to Raleigh, and they have NC State. Oh, they have NC State after Syracuse.
Not a lot of trap games in Notre Dame's schedule.
Notre Dame has an shoot body blow of Syracuse and NC State.
I'm not feeling too many trap games this year for ND, but
interesting.
All right, number 39. Would you like to do the honors, Dan?
I would love to. A team that I perennially underrate and then feel bad about, and then they sort of make me feel okay for underrating them. The Utah Utes.
Yeah,
the 39.
Utes.
Last year, they ascended to, I want to say, top 3, 4 in the country, somewhere in there. They start the season 6-0. They finished 9-3. And that was sort of a team that everybody sort of kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it kind of did when they ran on the road to USC, but that's not a bad loss. They blow out Oregon on the road, which sort of led to some changes at Oregon ultimately later on. The big win against Michigan to open up the season. Their defensive coordinator retires. They promote from within a secondaries coach. Their defense was great last year. Their defense was unapologetically great, and I could see this Utah team if they're able to get something dynamic on offense this year. And it's hard to imagine exactly where that'll come from. Some intriguing stuff on the ground with what's his name? It's Joe Williams.
Troy McCormick,
yeah. Troy McClure. Sure. Troy Williams is the quarterback transfer from Washington. He was a JC guy. And they lose Britton Covey, who was like pretty much their most exciting offensive player, the returner and slot guy. He's going on his mission, so he's going to be gone for a couple of years. But their schedule's not terrible. Their schedule, I mean, they go to Cal. They have USC. They have USC, Washington, and Oregon at home. And all things considered, it appears they missed Stanford on their schedule. So that's a win already. I think Utah's in a pretty good place. I don't think they're getting to 9 wins this year, but I think they could have a very dangerous 8-4 type season.
Wow. All right. Let's pump the brakes a little bit here.
Please pump away.
Let me pump the brakes a little bit here. I think you brought up a really good point with Utah, and I'm in the same spot because the difficulty with Utah is always trying to mold expectations for Kyle Whittingham because he's a really good coach.
He is.
Really good coach. Gets the most out of his players all the time. So I think we can make some assumptions right out of the chute that the defense is going to be okay, even though there's some turnover on the coaching staff. I think we feel pretty good that the defense is going to be okay.
They have a Lotulelei.
They do.
They have yet another Lotulelei and Lola Lotulelei. So I'm very excited by that. But continue. You're right. I think you're right.
What I don't know and what you don't know and what nobody knows is what they're going to get out of their offense.
Yeah.
Last year, the formula was a good defense and a lot of Travis Wilson and Devontae Booker. This year, it's good defense and Joe Williams or Troy McClure or...
Are we going to call Troy Williams Troy McClure all year long?
I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
No receiver with more than 28 targets last year.
Yeah, it's rough.
If you're looking for big plays, I think you're barking up the wrong tree here.
Receiver-wise, they couldn't get much worse than what they were last year.
This is true. But I just feel like there are too many variables there on offense to really feel good about a Utah team that, contrary to what you said, I think this is a brutal schedule.
Well, I mean, they missed Stanford, but they do have BYU in the non-con. It's Southern Utah, BYU, and San Jose State. So all things considered, there's no way they're going to be worse than 2-1 heading into the USC game, who they get at home. Going to Cal is not a difficult place to play. Going to Oregon State is not difficult. Going to UCLA, which, mind you, they won with a backup a couple years ago. UCLA is a better team and has a better quarterback than they did a couple years ago. But, I mean, probably. Brett Hundley was decent.
Dan, we've got 7 games listed here on our little crib sheet. Now,
I understand.
Let's take Cal out of it. Let's make it an even 6. BYU at home, USC at home, at UCLA, home against Washington, at ASU, home against Oregon. Let's take ASU out too. Those are 5 losable games right there. And this is an offense that I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. So you're telling me you got BYU, USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon. Those teams are going to be able to score some points this year. And this is not a team at all constructed to play from behind. So I'm thinking like 6-6.
Totally fair. I'm totally good with them going 6-6 and would not surprise me. The reason I like them, first of all, you miss Stanford and you miss Wazoo. You miss the reigning all Pac-12, all conference quarterback in Luke Falk. So that's a big win. You miss Christian McCaffrey and Luke Falk. So in terms of what their schedule could be, that's fine. And you're totally right. All those teams can score. I don't see a single loss on Washington's schedule, so that has to include Utah, obviously. But I also think if you're getting the tougher teams on your schedule at home, at altitude, you know, USC is a 9 p.m. game. People just keep getting hurt on Utah's field. I just think it's the most secret hornet's nest. You like that term, right?
I do.
I think it's the most secret hornet's nest in the country. Nobody wants to play in Salt Lake City. Yes, I mean, Troy Williams has played major college football. He came in and played decently at times for Washington. Joe Williams came in last year with Devontae Booker hurt and played pretty damn well. So if at the very least they're a moderately efficient running team and a scary defensive team, particularly up front, and they do lose a couple of huge pieces, that's better than a good number of teams in this top 40 already.
I agree with that. By the way, I wanted to point out, I did hear from a Husky fan named Kevin, who is terrified of your ongoing Washington jinx.
I don't see a loss, Ty. I just don't see a loss.
Telling you, this is having a far-reaching impact on some Husky fans out on your current coast, I should say.
I could not be higher on the Huskies.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not high on Utah at all. Of course, that's the joke because no one's ever high on Utah and they always seem to scrap it together. If they do it this year, Kyle Whittingham should take the most amount of money humanly possible because this would be a hell of a job.
Yeah, absolutely. And he keeps having to swap out coordinators. I think Dennis Erickson is there once again at like a running backs coach and offensive assistant. But yeah, they've got co-coordinators on offense. They just need to be. You don't need a ton, I don't think, for Utah to succeed. Even the games they lose, like, they lost in like double overtime to Arizona. Like they're just always a hard out, I feel like.
Speaking of Dennis Erickson, have you ever looked at his coaching list of all the places he's been?
He's a consultant, Ty. Yeah,
you need like a 5 gigabyte database to handle all those rows. Crazy. Okay. Let's move on to numero 38.
Come on, give it to me in Spanish, Ty.
I can't do it in Spanish.
Really? 38?
38.
There you go.
The Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah. Very low, right?
Yeah. 12-0 regular season. 12-2 after that close loss to Michigan State in the Big Ten Championship. And then their destruction game against Stanford and Christian McCaffrey in the Rose Bowl. A great story last year.
Yes.
Incredible story last year. You know, schedule-wise, you look at this team, it is not inconceivable that we're 7-8 games in and Iowa's undefeated again.
Sure.
Not out of the question at all. Even that we're talking about a 10 or 11 win team before all is said and done. That's the thing here. The schedule is harder than it was last year, but there are still only 4 games on this schedule that really make me flinch. Home against Wisconsin, the night game at Penn State should be tough. The night game at home against Michigan, probably a loss. And then there's a home game against Nebraska later in the year. That's not to say that Iowa doesn't drop another one along the way against like a Northwestern or a Minnesota, but this is still a really workable schedule. And I don't think that's saying much for what they played last season. So for what it's worth, I think, again, the ingredients are in place schedule-wise for Iowa to do something pretty special again. The other good news from the perspective of you and I, and really everyone previewing teams in late July, when you ask yourself, what kind of team is Iowa going to be this year? you kind of already know the answer, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
It's exactly the same as last year.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly the same. It's the same team year in and year out. The names just change. All right. So this year, the three big names on offense that aren't changing and they're important are CJ Beathard, he's a quarterback, Akram Wadley, and LaShawn Daniels at running back. They don't have Jordan Canzeri anymore, but Wadley and Daniels are the two names to watch at running back. This is not going to be a dynamic offense no matter who you put in it, but it's going to be scrappy. And if they can get production out of the line, if CJ Beathard stays healthy, it's just going to look a lot like last season. And, go and talk to your kids about some unsexy winning football, I think is what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think the difference is going to be a bunch of little things. Obviously, dropping from the Big Ten championship game in the Rose Bowl to number 31 in these projected rankings, which again are not ours. They are very much not ours. I think it's going to be the little things that will be difference makers from a 12-0 team to say an 8-4 team. And I don't know who those 4 losses are against. Michigan certainly seems likely, even though it's at Iowa. The schedule's still great. They still miss Michigan State and Ohio State. The fact that the interior of their offensive line is going to be new, that was so huge for them. They converted 3rd and 2 after 3rd and 2, pushing defensive fronts in the wrong direction, keeping people on skates. That offensive line was so good. I don't trust CJ Beathard if they're down 10 or 13 to just engineer quick drives, not with that receiving core. I don't believe in them. But I really hope Akram Wadley is good again because I like saying his name.
Oh, yeah.
There is something very fun about saying Akram Wadley. So when you say that their offense may not be dynamic, that name is dynamic.
Yeah.
That name is great. They also might have the best corner in the country. I don't know how much that matters this year with JT Barrett missing top receivers, and sure, they're going to have 5-star guys, and if they play them in whatever Big Ten championship game again, Michigan, we don't expect them to be good throwing the ball until later in the season, but that's when they get Michigan. So I don't know how many quarterbacks will be able to take advantage of some softer parts of the Iowa secondary, but certainly nobody's going to be taking advantage of Desmond King, who is that good and could be a first-round pick next year.
Totally.
So if they can find pass rushing help after losing what they lost last year, and CJ Beathard is once again at least efficient and doesn't take away more than he gives, I don't see why Iowa can't really embarrass whoever put together the mathematics to come up with them at 38 and find themselves as a top 15 or 20 team again.
Yeah, I think ultimately the offense is really the limiting factor because the defense, as you alluded, should be pretty strong. Again, against the run this year, they were good last year, and they should be pretty good against the pass because of Desmond King. Now, they don't have a whole lot of depth behind him at cornerback, but as you mentioned, again, there aren't a whole lot of quarterbacks who can really take advantage of a secondary in the Big Ten, at least not at this point. It doesn't feel like there is. Desmond King had 8 picks last year. He was second nationally, tied for second nationally. He's also the number 9 overall player, according to our friends over at Pro Football Focus. And they rightly point out that he's a better tackler than a lot of people would know, unless they're looking at the stats or watching the game tape. This is a guy who is good in open space, and that only helps make the run defense and by extension, the pass defense a little bit better as well. So I think you got to feel pretty good about the defensive side of the ball. The question is for Iowa, what is the upside of your offense? You just know they're going to be up there trying to grind games out. Bill Connolly, our friend, described this season of Iowa football as, quote, even more Iowa than before. And honestly, that feels about right to me. Not feeling 12-0 again, which is a shame.
I would watch a music video called Even More Iowa Than Before. More Iowa Than Iowa. It's the worst Power Man 5000 song ever recorded. Or who did More Human Than Human? Was that Rob Zombie?
I think it was Rob
Feels
Zombie,
like Rob Zombie. Okay. Yes, they should start the season 7-0 going into the Wisconsin game on October 22nd. Which one of these 4 games do they have to win, Ty, to get to 9 wins? I think they're over-under in front of me right now. According to Vegas Insiders, it's 8.5. So which one of these 4 games do you feel like is the linchpin game, the twisting game? Nebraska at home, Michigan at home, at Penn State, and then against Wisconsin. Those appear to be the most talented and dangerous teams on their schedule right now. So which one is the must-win game?
I think it's Wisconsin.
Okay.
I think it's Wisconsin. To
set the tone into the bye week, and then they go to Penn State at night.
Of those teams, we're going to talk about Wisconsin next, actually. Wisconsin, I think, is the least talented of those 4 teams that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So let's go Wisconsin. And if I'm picking a number 2, I'll probably say Nebraska, just because, not because I think that Penn State is any Goliath this season, but the Nebraska game's at home.
Okay.
So let's go Nebraska.
And I believe we're getting to Wisconsin on this very episode.
Let's go to number 37, Dan. Would you like to unveil them?
Oh, man. It's Wisconsin.
How about that? A little foreshadowing here on the verbal.
Yes. So Wisconsin, much like we mentioned with Iowa, who hosts Wisconsin, Iowa hosts Wisconsin, so Wisconsin goes to Iowa. You should know about Wisconsin by now. Barry Alvarez has this team rearing to go. So they go 9-3 last year. They go a rather unimpressive 8-2 behind a very strong defense, but nothing too exciting offensively. They lose to Bama to open up the season. They lose to Iowa in a pretty ugly game. But they finished the season strong, beating USC. Biggest loss, and you're not going to believe this, Ty, was not Joel Stave. It was not Joel Stave. Their biggest loss was Dave Aranda, their defensive coordinator, who goes and takes over what should be a phenomenal defense at LSU under Dave Aranda. They hired Justin Wilcox, who has a stock that has approximately plummeted down from space into the atmosphere and then just through the ground and is hurtling its way towards the core of the earth.
Am I the only one who is anxiously awaiting the return of the Justin Wilcox era?
When you say anxious, do you mean anxious or do you mean eager?
Both at the same time. Because we've been told about this Justin Wilcox phenomenon for eons now, it feels like. It just started since the show started back in 2008. Sometime after then, we started hearing about Justin Wilcox. And it's all well and good, but over the last 8 seasons, he's only put out 4 really good defenses. It feels like there's a fair amount of inconsistency there.
Yeah, you take the good, you take the bad, and then you have the facts of life.
Yeah.
Justin Wilcox. They'll be really good defensively up front, even though they lose the Joe Show. Joe Schobert gone. Vince Beagle is very good at outside linebacker. Last year they were obviously very beat up at running back. So people that expected Corey Clement to be the next great Wisconsin running back certainly had to wait because of his injuries. Tywan Deal also inconsistent. But they believe they return everybody up front other than their starting left tackle. So that's a good sign that things will get into a rhythm rather quickly for whoever starts at quarterback, be it Bart Houston, who I saw at the Elite 11, it felt like 7 years ago. But he was very highly touted coming out of high school and sort of has been waiting his time behind the clearly excellent Joel Stave. I can't say it. Couldn't say it with a straight face. But defensively, they're going to have a lot to deal with that schedule. The back of their defense is going to look pretty different, even though there's some experience at corner. Joe Schobert did everything. And the fact that they are going to have to move on at defensive coordinator and move on without the Joe Show against this schedule, I worry that this is going to be a bit of a trench, a bit of a valley year for Wisconsin.
By the way, we totally missed out. And I promise I'm going to get back to a few of the people who volunteered their services to help us score the fantasy things. But a mid-season pickup, if we're going to allow one.
Oh, ooh.
All right, a mid-season pickup watch, like an early waiver watch list.
I'll consider it.
Could be TJ Watt being the younger brother of JJ Watt.
I had one for another team that we will get to that I'm very excited for.
So Wisconsin won 10 games last year with the bowl win over USC.
9 games.
9 and then 10 with the bowl win, okay?
Yeah.
That came after Paul Chryst came over from Pitt. Everyone saw it coming. Worst kept secret. But as you mentioned, with Dave Aranda now going to LSU, you could make a real good case that Paul Chryst's single biggest move upon taking the job at Wisconsin was retaining Dave Aranda.
Oh, yeah.
He is an outstanding defensive coordinator. He put a top 10 caliber defense out there week in and week out. And he needed to because the offense was crap. Entirely crap. And it wasn't his fault. You mentioned the injuries, and Tywan Deal got hurt too. And the problem was they couldn't run the ball. Wisconsin, could you believe it, could not run the ball. And when that happens at Wisconsin, especially a Paul Chryst Wisconsin,
it's Stave time.
You're right. That's a bit of an identity crisis, and it is Stave time. It's Stave time. Now, at least Joel Stave had the yips 2 years ago. But at least he's got some experience. At least you felt like he knew the system. and you could lean on him to some degree. He was okay.
Yeah.
This year, though, Bart Houston, Alex Hornibrook, is that correct?
Hornibrook, yeah.
I'm gonna love Alex Hornibrook. Hornibrook, we're going with.
May I jump in with something that will not be a fantasy things thing, but it's something I noticed in reading about Wisconsin and sort of brushing up.
Yeah.
I can't immediately name a coach in college football who wears a bigger sweatshirt than Paul Chryst.
It's huge.
It is an enormous sweatshirt.
The only other competition could be Brett Bielema or Lane Kiffin because he wears the art smock.
It is like he is wearing a reverse red trash bag for his games. It is an enormous, and he's a big guy. He's not a fat guy.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell.
Just a big dude.
It's a big sweatshirt.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like he bought 40 of them on clearance because like, what are we going to do with all these triple X's?
Prime Day was huge for him.
Prime Day was huge.
Anyway, my point is that Wisconsin has no safety net this year.
Right.
Against a tougher schedule. At least last year they had Stave, who I think to a degree they could feel comfortable with, but this year they don't, you don't know what they're going to get at quarterback, and they'll be fine on defense. I think they'll be fine. They've got talent in the front seven, and they got to figure out their interior D line and some other stuff. But by and large, they'll be okay on defense. My problem is schedule, and I go back again to a few weeks ago, and we started talking about these teams, and I said as we looked at the top 40 just on a preliminary basis, there aren't a lot of top 40 teams that have really easy schedules. And Wisconsin, I think, falls into that as well. They've got LSU opening week. They go to Michigan State, to Michigan, home against Ohio State, on the road against Iowa.
Consecutive weeks, technically with a bye week thrown in. But yes, those are 3 consecutive games.
And
Michigan
then Nebraska.
State, Michigan, Ohio State.
That's about as tough a schedule as you're going to play in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Which of those 6 games, if they're going to go 2-4 and potentially go 8-4 and hit the over, which 2 games do they have to win between LSU, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Iowa, Nebraska, with Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State on the road and LSU neutral?
I'll say at Iowa and home against Nebraska.
Okay. And that's coming after 3 pretty killer games.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you beat Michigan State earlier in the year. But you're probably not beating Michigan, and I have my doubts about Ohio State, even though it's at home.
I could see them. God, if Bart Houston's pretty decent, I could see him going to the big house and winning, maybe.
All right.
Or going to Michigan State and winning the week before. But man, that's rough.
If only they could upgrade their quarterback situation.
Yeah, and I'm willing to believe in Bart Houston, having never watched him once play a significant snap. I'm willing to believe.
You're a big fan of Bart's.
Yeah. Who do we have next, Ty?
Well, are you ready to upgrade your lifestyle and leave your boring life behind?
Just tell me how and when.
You can do it all while getting the best possible prices on the web. At touchofmodern.com, Dan, they've got all the latest trends across fashion, tech, and decor with the best prices anywhere. What do you like about touchofmodern.com? Just out of curiosity.
I like the fact that it's style, it's little pieces, bigger pieces that can just... It changes the complexity of your living space, Ty, and your living environment and your life in general.
Do you think it's a cool site?
Very cool.
Because a lot of times I do these ad reads and I don't get your input on them.
No, I like
what you think of the product. Do you think it's cool? Because I think it's cool.
Yeah, you don't have to spend a ton of money. You can spend a little bit of money to sort of upgrade if it's a wallet, if it's something for your desk that's just a cool little, not a knickknack because that implies it's cheap looking, but like just something. I like the name because it is just you can touch, you can accent everything.
Can I tell you a little secret about Touch of Modern?
Always love secrets.
Sometimes I go to the site just to see what the kids are making these days.
Absolutely.
A lot of cool stuff on that site. I can't believe man can make such wonders.
I bought a wallet made of wood. That's not true. That is not. That would be inconvenient.
You can probably find it on touchofmodern.com.
Yeah.
Whether it's wallets made of wood, which I don't know if they have, but they've also got tech gadgets and gear, iPhone cases, new and vintage watches, men's fashion, accessories, things that will get you noticed, decor, loads of new sales launching literally every day at touchofmodern.com. The one place you can go to discover and improve your lifestyle in one single click. Right now, if you are a solid verballer, go and get immediate access to these deals and more when you sign up at touchofmodern.com. Again, that is touchofmodern.com. Dan, do it today because tomorrow it'll be different. That is, of course, how life rolls in the fast lane.
Here's because you spoke about secrets, Ty. Right now, from Touch of Modern, at this very moment, I am wearing underwear.
Don't tell me what you're wearing.
Made of stainless steel from Touch of Modern, and it does not breathe.
That's like Robin Hood Men in Tights, right there.
Yeah, the chastity belt. Yeah.
All right, number 36.
Number 36. Who do we have?
The Boise State Broncos, Dan.
Good pronunciation.
Thank you.
Boise with a C.
8-4 regular season last year.
Mm-hmm.
9-4 if you want to count the Poinsettia Bowl. Look, I'm not going to pull any punches. There's an awful lot to like here about Boise State. This team is, as far as I can see, loaded on offense.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a super experienced front seven.
Mm-hmm.
I would be stunned if they lost more than 2 games this year. Wouldn't be at all surprised if they ran the table.
Why do you say that? What is the thing or things that have you enamored with the Broncos?
Well, I like Brett Rippon. You
Okay.
remember he was the freshman last year who took over for Ryan Finley.
Great place to start.
Ryan Finley, of course, went to NC State now as a grad transfer, but Brett Rippon had a really solid freshman campaign. He's going to put up crazy numbers this season in that offense because they play at tempo.
Mm-hmm.
He's had the full year, the full offseason to kind of work his way into the system. Beyond just him, you've got Jeremy McNichols at running back. Again, our friends over at Pro Football Focus are really high on Jeremy McNichols. They rank him as the number 2 run/pass threat behind one Christian McCaffrey.
All-purpose back, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot to like there. He needs to be better running the ball, but still, he's a hell of a threat coming out of the backfield. And then you've got 4 of 5 top targets from a year ago. Thomas Spurbeck, they're coming back as well. So I think offensively, not a lot in terms of deficiency. They just need to be more consistent, really. They need to get more out of the running game and not have a few of those dud games like they had a year ago, and they'll be just fine offensively.
Yeah, they struggled with a couple option teams in Air Force and New Mexico in November. You were so kind, Ty. You were so diplomatic and civil in just glossing over the Poinsettia Bowl with what they did to Northern Illinois. Just the absolute, and this is a very bad Ja Rule impression, but murder. The very bad impression. I will bookend that impression with that. But they finish the season in an impressive fashion. They lose both coordinators, and that's not great. But
True.
Marcel Yates, I think, is a big win for Arizona going there and changing their 3-3-5 to, I believe, like a 4-2-5 and stuff that Boise ran. So I think that's a huge loss for Boise, and that's certainly going to affect things. But you're right. If they clean up some of the mistakes from last season, and that Washington game to open the year could have been gone really either way. But they have Wazoo, Utah State, Colorado State, BYU, and Air Force. And there isn't a team there, maybe outside of Wazoo. I like Wazoo this year. That really should put the fear of life into you. Now, I really like the Zach Hill hire. He's one of the co-offensive coordinators. He's at, I think, Hawaii last year, but he was at Eastern Washington forever. So he was the one to help develop a number of really good FCS quarterbacks there. And I imagine there's going to be more of a wide open air raidy type element to Boise State's offense at times. I mean, it's still Brian Harson's offense. They're going to play at tempo. But if they can fill in some gaps on the inside on defense and stop making some dumb mistakes on offense, they haven't run the ball like they did with Jay Ajayi. Very fun name to say. A couple seasons. But there is much more to like about this Boise team than to be worried about. So if everybody gels on the coaching staff, and they find a good balance on offense and rotation guys from last year step up on defense, 10-2, 9-3, somewhere in that region. I'm going to look up their over under right now, but
yeah, you look up the over under. I'm going to make a quick note.
It's 10.5.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Here's my quick note about the schedule.
Yeah.
What we did is we went through each of these teams and we tried to jot down, and we were very liberal about the games I think we noted here. Games that could serve some sort of potential roadblock, right? Mm-hmm. Here are the 5 teams that we listed for Boise State.
Yeah.
Washington State, I think, would qualify.
Mm-hmm.
Utah State, Colorado State, BYU certainly would qualify. and then at Air Force.
Yeah.
If those are the 5 toughest games in your schedule,
As I said, Ty.
yeah.
As I said.
If those are the 5 toughest games in your schedule, I think you're going to have a pretty good season, especially when you've got all the ammo coming back that Boise does. And furthermore, no matter if they are 11-1 or 12-0 or 15-0, the schedule is going to hold them back. It's going to hold them back from any serious consideration for the playoff.
Yeah. I mean, they lost to 2 of those teams last year. They lost to Utah State and they lost to Air Force. So it's not like they're overlooking those teams at this moment. But they need to go, and once again, they need to go 12-0 this year. And they need to beat Washington State by 20. They need to beat Oregon State by at least 20. They need to beat BYU by at least 20.
No.
And maybe they get consideration, but I could see them being left out at 11-1, 12-0 without much of a concern.
Totally. All right. So
they don't have the Virginia Tech, they don't have Georgia, they don't have Oregon, they don't have one of those teams on their schedule this year that is universally considered to be top 10, 15, 20.
No, I'm with you. I'm going to say 11-1. 12-0 is a tough call to make, but I'm going to say 11-1.
I'm going to say 10-2.
Okay.
They're not quite there yet.
By the way, you mentioned
murder.
Yeah, not that, but Brian Bennett from ESPN, as we're recording, has just tweeted out that Michigan State players at Big Ten Media Days are being asked about being overlooked.
Yes.
I believe that would be a point for you, sir.
Oh my God. The coins are coming out of the slot machine at a pace that I cannot keep up with. The fantasy thing slot is just a giver.
I got to name our tribunal this week. It's gonna get out of hand in a hurry.
Yeah, that's
all
true.
right. We've got 3 teams left.
We do.
Would you like to introduce number 35?
BYU, they go 9-3 in the regular season, and credit to BYU, they finish in the top 2 of the Bowl Holy War, or the Bowly War, as I probably should have thought of last year. So they go 9-3 over the course of the season. They somehow find a way to give up 20 points to the Missouri offense, which impressive in its own right. But they didn't lose to bad teams, other than the Mizzou loss. They lose to a ranked Utah team. They lose to a Michigan team that finished the season in a very impressive fashion. They lose to UCLA in a squeaker. So I like BYU a good amount because they have one of those good problems of having 2 very, very good quarterback options in Taysom Hill, who, if he is anywhere near where he was before the Liz Frank, it's the foot, he dislocated his foot in a really awful way, and everybody sort of roots for him. I imagine he'll start, but they also have Tanner Mangum, who at times looked very, very good last season. So they have that very, very good problem once again to deal with, but a new coach. It's always a dice roll when it's a new guy in Kalani Sitake, who I think a lot of people are very high on. But the fact that they lose their head coach and it's just in a completely new staff, and really didn't see that coming, but here we are. And the fact that they're independent means their schedule, and we've touched on this before, brutal.
Absolutely
Just
brutal.
The worst.
Yeah.
But there's talent. There's talent, even though they lose a couple of big receivers. They can run the ball. Their offensive line was only okay last year, but they're all pretty much back. Their pass D looked very good last year. Their defense in general looked very decent at times. So I'm pretty high on BYU in a vacuum, but within the context of their schedule, man, it feels like a 6-6 year as they get sort of through the doldrums of a new coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue. You've got Kalani Sitake, could be a very capable head football coach for all we know.
Yeah,
but we don't know it. We also don't know much about Ty Detmer, the former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback for BYU. Got a great name.
They're moving to a pro style offense, so they're shifting everything on both sides, going to 4-3 on defense as well. Yeah,
I mean, we just don't know what Detmer's got up his sleeve. Last year, he was coaching high school in Texas.
Mm-hmm, same.
You know, and then you've got, I'm going to try and do this correctly here. Isa Tuiaki?
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
That was pretty good, Ty. I think you nailed it.
He comes over from Utah, where he did good things as a line coach, but he's also never been a defensive coordinator before. So you've got 3 top coaches who have not held those positions at all previously.
Yep. Bronco gone.
bit of a leap of faith here. I'm curious to see what they do at quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if they went Tanner Mangum instead and use Taysom Hill in spots, in spots where, there might be more of a need for a running game, a red zone type of situation. Maybe not too dissimilar from what we might see at Notre Dame this year, where I think they're going to go Kaiser and use a guy like a Zaire in some select situations. Yeah, as a change of pace. But you're right. A lot to like here. Defensively, should be good in the secondary. You got to figure out, a little bit more on the run defense side and get more of a pass rush. But all in all, solid top to bottom. It's just Arizona, at Utah, UCLA, West Virginia, at Michigan State, Mississippi State, at Boise, Utah State. A lot of games there where you could see a potential roadblock. So I'm not quite going 6-6, but I feel like 8-4, 9-3 is the right place to be.
So their over-under is 8 games. Yeah. So to get to 9 games, they have to win one of these 4 games. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State, Boise State, UCLA, Arizona.
I'm going to say Boise.
Okay. On the road, at Boise on a Thursday night.
Smurf turf. That'll be tough.
Weird. Okay.
All right.
I think to open the season against Arizona, because they're body blowing their way through October 20th, it looks like. So if they can sneak out a win against Arizona, I think it's neutral site. It's what it appears. It's the late game on the opening Saturday. Yeah, it's the University of Phoenix Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the eke out game to get them to 9 wins.
Let's go to number 34.
Ooh.
Let's talk about Texas.
The stars at night are big and bright. Deep in the heart. Okay, you can go.
Here we go again, Mr. Rubenstein. 5-7 a year ago. No bowl game to speak of. I feel like we do this every year. Every year we look at Texas. We get excited about the talent.
Mm-hmm.
We start saying things like, hey, this could be the year. This could be the year they take a step forward.
Is that the royal we are using right now?
It is the royal we. Thank you.
Just making sure.
Tom Luganbill, I saw pick them to win the Big 12.
Great.
A decision I'm sure he immediately regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of come to your senses and you realize that still somehow the State University of Texas still does not have an answer at quarterback.
Right.
How on God's green earth the University of Texas at Austin does not have an obvious answer at quarterback with all of their high school football talent in that state? That is totally beyond me. Totally beyond me. And that's been the problem the last couple years, right? They don't have an offensive identity. They've had no quarterback, no real system. Charlie Strong, this offseason, he goes out, he hires Sterling Gilbert away from Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
He also, in the spring game, gives a freshman a shot, Shane Bichelle.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, he played pretty damn well. So who knows what we're going to see now when September rolls around, when September 4th rolls around against Notre Dame. It could be that neither Sterling Gilbert nor Shane Bichelle are really the answer, the panacea for Texas to fix all these problems. But I still feel like if you're a Texas fan, you got to be optimistic because at least you have different names. And that's been the thing. The last couple years, it's like Tyrone Swoops, Gerard Hurd.
Mm-hmm.
Insert random talented freshman, talented whomever here.
9 years of Case McCoy. Yeah.
I feel like at least now you've got some hope. If you're entering the season under the assumption that Tyrone Swoops is your starting quarterback, that's a depressing place to be. It really is.
Yeah.
And so there's reason at least for some optimism. It's easier when you're coming from a place of 5 wins, mind you. But still, I think there is some reason for optimism. And on the other side of the ball, defense should be really good, right? The back end of the defense should be awesome. I've got a thing for Malik Jefferson. He's going to be a high draft pick someday. They've got to get better against the run, and they need to shore up a few other odds and ends, but the defense should be good. The offense, again, remains the question. What we get from Texas on offense is going to tell you everything you need to know about how the season goes.
Yeah, I'm not quite as high on Texas as a team threatening a Big 12 crown, but at least showing signs of life and improvement. I think they've got 2 big fantasy things opportunities. The first one is, did you know Shane Bichelle is the son of former Texas Ranger infielder Steve Bichelle? That is a thing. Also, number 2, with the offensive coordinator, Sterling Gilbert.
Yeah.
So you have Sterling Gilbert into a big high-profile place in Texas, got a bunch of money guaranteed, and Dino Babers, going to Syracuse. I think you could get a lot of running that Art Briles Baylor system down there, running that Art Briles system, running that Baylor system. You can get a lot of that, a lot of life out of that watching Texas football this year. They're going to be able to run the ball. Their line is back pretty much. Donta Foreman and Chris Warren, they're large. They're like, I'm imagining between 700 and 800 pounds combined. Their defense, I know you're high on the talent of their back four, but against the better teams on their schedule, they just gave up plays. They gave up a ton through the air last year. When you watch Trevon Boykin in that TCU game, they got real ugly real fast. He sort of reacted like somebody who was not expecting a gift. Like, oh, is this all for me? This is just for me? Oh, this is you guys, thank you. That was Texas's defense last year. And certainly they improved against some of the lower teams in the conference, but even Patrick Mahomes had his way for a good chunk of that game. Skylar Howard didn't throw a ton, but West Virginia was super efficient through the air against Texas. So I need to see it first. And you need to take the 4 and 5 star cornerbacks and safety and actually lock down good teams. And the quarterbacks in the Big 12 should be pretty decent. Whoever starts, I mean, it's going to be Seth Russell for Baylor. Whoever starts for us, we have Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. You have Mason Rudolph at Oklahoma State. You've got Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma. This is going to be a secondary that's going to be severely tested. And also, I don't know how much they're going to be able to actually get to the quarterback with this line. So we'll see. I'm curious. They're going to be improved from last season, but you're right. Offensive identity is going to be huge. The schedule is not great with Notre Dame and Cal in the non-con on the road against Cal, but they get Oklahoma on neutral site. They get Baylor on the 40 acres, and they get West Virginia and TCU at home as well. So all things considered, if they go they went 5-7 last year in the regular season. There's no reason this team should not win 7 or 8 games at the very least.
Yeah.
I think 7-5 or 8-4 has to be considered a good step forward, especially if they start Bichelle.
The question though is this: what is the win total that Texas needs to get to in order for there not to be rumors about Charlie Strong losing his job?
8-4 with 2 really impressive wins, probably.
Yeah.
I think 8-4 with good wins. I'm looking at their schedule and they're over-under right now. So they're over-under for the season is 6.5. The schedule's not great. It's fine. They have, as you mentioned, Notre Dame and Cal in the non-conference on the road against Cal.
They could beat Cal.
Can they win at Oklahoma State? Maybe. It's not an easy place.
It's early.
Hard to say they can't beat Oklahoma when they beat them last year somehow. I think they're going to need to beat either Baylor, West Virginia, or TCU at home. Okay. West Virginia seems the most likely. I'd like to see them beat one of Baylor or TCU to really believe in them moving forward. Because even as much as Baylor is going to feel different next season, there's still a good amount of talent on both sides of the ball. So if they can beat Baylor again, but Baylor with a full strength offense, or TCU, who should be, we should have a good sense of TCU certainly by the end of the season. I would imagine Charlie Strong is back because the recruiting classes are there. I don't know if Vance Bedford is back, if their pass defense is what it was last year, but they'll be fine if they get to 8 wins with a couple impressive ones.
And finally, number 33.
Number 33.
The West Virginia Mountaineers, Dan.
Yeah.
7-5 a year ago. They won their bowl game to move to 8-5 against Arizona State. I think it's put up or shut up time for Dana Holgorsen.
Okay.
I think that's fair criticism. I think he's accepted it. I think he's recognized it. Can you believe that it is going to be his 6th season in Morgantown?
That's crazy. It just feels like yesterday where we had a casino incident. I mean, I still remember when they brought him on. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the logic was to get West Virginia to the next level. Right? You'll remember he won the Big East his first year. They pounded Clemson in the Orange Bowl, and they've never quite gotten back there. Mm-hmm.
And over the last 4 years, he's one game over 500. That's since they joined the Big 12, 26-25. So he needs a big year this year, and it helps to have Skylar Howard back, a senior quarterback who's got some experience in the system. Sure, it helps to have a guy like a Russell Shell, who, despite the fact that his name is spelled very awkwardly, Still has some familiarity with the system. It helps that they've got receivers that have experience in the system, align with experience. Here is the problem, and Bill Connolly notes this in his preview. Given the pace that West Virginia plays at, they need to get more bang for their buck. They had so many 3-and-outs a year ago.
Yeah.
They simply were not efficient. And if you can't improve those efficiency numbers, it's going to be another season like last year. And this year, despite the fact that they've got some talent again on defense, they don't have as much talent as they did a year ago on defense, and they're way thinner. I am very skeptical this season. It's a backloaded schedule. I hope for their sake they can get their ducks in order by the time they get to some of these tougher Big 12 games later in the year. The schedule could be worse, mind you.
Right.
It could be much worse, but still, this is a 7-5 team. This is an 8-4 team at best. I am not feeling that big step forward that I think West Virginia fans really want.
I think it could be an interesting year. I'd like to see more out of Skylar Howard. He certainly ended the season in an impressive way against Arizona State in their bowl game. But the Joe Wicklight thing is almost interesting to me in a buy low kind of way. They need good play from their offensive line, just like every team, but they need especially good play. They lose Wendell Smallwood, who is a great rusher in the Big 12. Russell Shell certainly has a ton of talent. So if they're able to fix some things up front and stay ahead of schedule offensively, you mentioned the inefficiency on offense, that will make things so much easier for Skylar Howard. They have good depth at receiver and interesting talent. I saw a really funny quote. I was reading up on West Virginia a couple weeks ago, and it was a quote from Dana Holgorsen, because certainly, I say certainly a lot now. Ugh, that's a weird thing. They've improved defensively, but Dana Holgorsen, reacting to the turnover on defense, said something like, "We look the same to me. We're all upperclassmen. These are all rotation guys, blah, blah, blah." And then the next sentence began with something along the lines of, "Yeah, West Virginia literally lost everybody important." But the defense looks the same, but they lost everybody important, or even kind of important on defense.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Tony Gibson has done a very good job getting this defense from embarrassment to average. And as an Oregon fan, I always like stories involving that. So there's no reason West Virginia can't do many things decently and have a great offensive mind running the offense with talent at the skill positions and experience at quarterback. And you're right, be an 8-4 team that nobody wants to play. Their schedule's not great. They finished real strong at the end of it, going to Oklahoma State, going to Texas and Oklahoma and Baylor at home. But I think that gives them enough time to sort things out and get to that decent point. So I don't think 8-4 or even 9-3 is all that unrealistic if those things happen.
So there you have it, Dan.
Yeah.
NC State, Utah, Iowa, Wisconsin, Boise State with the proper pronunciation. Thank you very much.
Boise.
BYU, Texas, and West Virginia. Those are our 8 teams in what we call Tier 5.
Yep.
Part 1 of our 5-part college football top 40 preview series. We've got tier numero 4 next week.
Give me a number.
Cuatro.
There it is.
Thank you. So there you go.
Yeah. I have a little treat for you, Ty.
Oh, please.
So we have, these 8 teams. And I want to stress that there are going to be other podcasts that preview games in a smart way. There might be good magazines, writers, TV people. But I suggest to you that if you are going to turn to radio, specifically Sirius XM radio.
Oh, no, don't do it.
Then
You almost killed me the last time you did this.
I'll give them everything they want.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, NC State coming in at number 40. Dave Dorn, make or break here. Can he get it done in the ACC tough schedule? Let me ask you this. Can they get over that hump? Utah at number 39. Got to watch out for Utah. Every year they seem like we're underrating them. What is it about Kyle Whittingham? Iowa at number 38. Instalube hotline. I talked to a number of friends here on the hotline. Iowa being disrespected. Are we all overlooking Iowa at number 38? It feels a little bit low to me. Kirk Ferentz gets his boys ready to play in the Big Ten. The schedule's not bad. Wisconsin at number 37. You know they're going to be looking to power that offense through the Big Ten. Barry Alvarez still running the show, but that's okay because we know those big uglies at Wisconsin are going to be trying to road grade everything. Boise State at number 36. Is this the Broncos of yesteryear? We like to talk about the Broncos being a national title contender, but we haven't seen the same thing out of Brian Harsin, at least not yet. But you always have to watch out for those pesky Broncos. BYU at number 35. New coaches here on the Instant Loop Hotline. I'm talking to Cheryl while we were walking the dogs yesterday, and she had no line on BYU. Going to be interesting to see what the Cougars are like without Bronco Mendenhall. Texas, my God, Texas. We're talking about this on the Insta Loop Hotline here on Sirius XM Radio, coming down from you from space. They go 5-7 last year. Is this a make or break year for Charlie Strong? I gotta think it is. Are they going to start the young freshman pup at quarterback, or are they going to go experienced? Yet to see, but I like those running backs. But who knows, man? Texas just not getting back to that level. And finally, West Virginia at number 33. Dana Holgorsen in that mad scientist offense. What are you going to get out of them? They certainly don't have Stedman Bailey. They certainly don't have Tavon Austin anymore. But God, always got to watch out for those pesky Mountaineers. Looking to see what they're going to be able to do when the Big 12 has been an up and down ride. But coming at you, hit me up on the Instalube hotline. Let's talk college football. How's that? 2 minutes even.
Wow.
2 minutes even.
Did you script that out, or was that ad lib?
I scripted not a single word.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank you very much.
You should just do that voice all the time.
I do that only for me and a little bit for you, and that's the most self-indulgent thing I do on this show, and that's saying something. Thank you for putting up with it.
All right. Well, that was a rare treat. Thank you.
How's life? Is life all right with you?
Life is good. Yeah, I'm good.
It's real nice here in LA.
Well, go enjoy LA.
I'm going to enjoy LA.
Yeah, go enjoy LA. All right.
And what else do we have this week, by the way, before we sign off?
We've got the emo show.
God.
The emo and pop punk show. Yeah, we're going to record it on Wednesday. We'll probably put it out at some point this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It will not be college football.
It will be
oriented.
Aggressively off topic.
We would encourage everyone to download, but you don't have to listen unless it's your cup of tea. Right. We are excited, but we probably put more into that show than this one. Or
should we do a top 40 for like emo and pop punk bands?
That
like
might be a little over aggressive.
Oh man, I could do strength and weaknesses. I could do live, how this band or performer is. I could do legacy. I could do top tracks. I'm malleable. I'm flexible.
I have some blind spots, but I'm willing to openly acknowledge what they are.
That's fine.
I'll be the outlier. Yeah, no, I'm excited. So we've got that coming up on the weekend. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, though, head on out to itunes.com/solidverbal. Download, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Every little bit helps. We're also now on iHeartRadio. For those people who are into iHeartRadio, you can find the Solid Verbal. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. We are on Snapchat. And again, we're on Facebook. Now you can write a review for us on there as well. Every little bit helps. We do appreciate, as always, your support. So look, emo show coming at you in a few days. And then next week, we're going to do tier 4. We'll start with team number 32, according to these preseason rankings. And we'll count our way down to like number 25. And we'll just work our way through America's college football top 40.
I'm very excited to continue this, Ty.
For that guy over there in beautiful and sunny and springy Southern California, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, thanks again for tuning into the show. We'll catch you all in a few days. Stay solid.
Peace.